Yes, guys, undervalued running backs in fantasy football drafts typically win you leagues because they break out over the course of the season, they outperform their ADP, and they supercharge your roster. Sometimes they're rookies, sometimes they are sleepers, sometimes they are veterans. So today I'm taking you through my targets for this year's breakout running backs. Now last year, 3 players, right, who kind of fit this mold. For the rookie, we have Bucky Irving. We head over to the points scored last year, finished all the way up at RB 13 in PPR, and that's including every single game on the season. If you really just kind of nitpick the games where he was the lead RB, man, he was a top 5 guy, as all of you know, to close the season. Chase Brown is kind of in that sleeper category, finished as PPR RB10 last year, but yet again, I mean, weeks 8 through the end of the season was a top 3 fantasy RB, averaging 24 opportunities per game, over 20 fantasy points per game. And then we have Chuba Hubbard, who kind of just all season showed up every week, put in the work, did his thing, RB 14 overall, and he did not play weeks 17 and 18. So you exclude that, maybe make the range from weeks 1 through 16. He was a top 12 running back. So these guys really were league winners. And this time last year during draft season, were undervalued. So let's go into our first draft target, our first undervalued running back. And I'll begin with this guy, right? I'll say something that might be a little contradictory. I'm in on Ken Walker. But the player I want to talk about right now is Zach Charbonnet because he's too good to ignore. Last year as a starting running back per game, 21.2 fantasy points. By the way, that is the exact same number as Saquon Barkley averaged last season across 18 games, though. 20-plus opportunities for Charbonnet in these 5 games where he was the starter, where Ken Walker was out. Well over 5 yards a carry, and he was a top 3 fantasy football running back. So what that tells me is if Charbonnet were ever to see the lead role here, he'd be a top 10, top 12 for sure running back. With that being said, Walker still exists, but Walker has missed 2+ games in every single year of his career. Both of these guys are 24 years old, I believe, okay? But then what really, right, so this was kind of common knowledge, but what really stood out to me was when I looked at the fantasy points per touch metric, which I put together every single year. It's one of the most telling metrics, all right? When we look at the fantasy points per touch here, what stands out to me? Oh, hold on. Okay, sorry for those of you watching. We had a little hiccup there. But what stands out to me for fantasy points per touch is here is Zach Charbonnet. 0.89 fantasy points per touch, number 7 among 56 qualified running backs. We move this down a little bit. All the way down, or should I say kind of midway through the list, is Ken Walker at 0.78. So in terms of scoring raw fantasy points, you guys, Zach Charbonnet last year was much better than Ken Walker. And it's interesting because Charbonnet was not the starter the whole year, but in those games, he scored more fantasy points per touch, 0.89. I mean, he's in a category here of Devon Achane, David Montgomery, Derrick Henry. Those are the guys ahead of Charbonnet. Garendo right behind him, surprisingly. Saquon Barkley, Rachaad White, and Irving, surprisingly, also right behind him. Tyjae Spears at 12th. A side note here, kind of just realizing now that Rachaad White and Bucky Irving were top 12 in this metric, which is just speaks to Liam Cohen's offense, in my opinion, to get me excited for Jacksonville. Okay, anyway, Zach Charbonnet is the first guy. I think that if he can get this Seattle backfield to a 50-50 split, there could be some nice value there for him. And I'm going to show you guys how I'm drafting these running backs in drafts at the end of the episode with a mock draft, as we always do, okay? But the next guy on the list is Cam Skattebo. So some of these guys on the list, honestly, the majority of them will be running backs, and that's because we're talking about breakouts, but sometimes, most of the time, RBs who are going to be good in the league break out in their rookie year. So we'll start with Cam Skattebo. He was the only college running back last year with over 1,000 rush yards, over 500 receiving yards, and 1.5 plus yards per route run, which is a very telling underlying utilization metric here for how good you are as a pass catcher, okay? 100 plus missed tackles forced, only 2 running backs did it last year. Genty, who you've heard of, Ashton Genty, if not, just Google him, and Cam Skattebo, okay? Last year, monster final season, 2,300 plus total yards, 24 touchdowns, and this week he will begin competing, all right? He will begin competing this week with Tyrone Tracy for that job. I like Tracy, but I think Skattebo wins it before the end of the season. Next on the list is Caleb Johnson. Jaylen Warren is simply not the answer in Pittsburgh. It's very obvious because you don't draft Caleb Johnson as high as you draft him. A guy with 3-down skill set. A guy who reminds Mike Tomlin, probably a lot of Najee Harris. You don't draft him if Jalen Warren is the answer. Okay, so Caleb is going to take the Najee role, 18 plus opportunities per game. That is a massive number. That is a magic number as well. Most RBs who hit 18 plus opportunities a game finish top 12, assuming they play a reasonable amount of games. Last year, his advanced stats are very good. 861 breakaway yards, that's second among all college running backs, and over 1,000 yards after contact, fourth among all running backs. He actually had Caleb Johnson did a higher breakaway percentage on his runs, 56.1% breakaway percentage, than Ashton Genty last year. So an elite pure rusher, soft hands, very good after the catch, very good in space. One of those running backs who can run you over and then juke you out, okay? Gets past the line of scrimmage and then keeps going after contact. Very special qualities. So it's a match made in heaven with Caleb Johnson, okay? And the Steelers. Similarly, speaking of matches made in heaven, Omarion Hampton is creeping up my draft board. I'm uploading this week a running back ranking video, or I might have already uploaded it if you're watching this. If it's not on my channel yet, it's coming. But Omarion Hampton, spoiler alert, is my RB13. He is borderline RB1 because Najee Harris now, after this eye injury, is missing the start of training camp on the non-football injury list. And even if Harris was playing, last year, 0.6 fantasy points per touch, 46th best, so 10th, so I guess 10th worst, all right? 3.9 yards per carry, third worst. In Hampton's last 25 games, by comparison, over 3,100 rush yards, 30 rush touchdowns, okay? He has back-to-back seasons with 300-plus touches. Like, dude, 3-down bell cow, freak of nature in Harbaugh's offense with no Harris. What are we doing here? First-round draft capital. Should be probably a top 12 RB, and he's RB13 for me right now. Maybe it changes. Now, we'll talk a little bit now here about a guy named Tyjae Spears, okay, who kind of is fitting the Chase Brown role for me from last year. So as the Titans' lead RB to close 2024, a lot of you don't remember, but he actually was the lead RB last year in the fantasy football playoffs. He averaged 20.7 fantasy points per game, 16 opportunities per game, 61% of snaps. So that's 61% of snaps isn't crazy. And on that number of snaps, over 20 fantasy points and 16 opportunities. The better running backs in that span for fantasy football purposes, guys, JT, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, James Cook. So only 4 other running backs were better, and they were all monsters last year and are monsters this year, okay? So every single time he's seen 50% snaps or more last season, Spears has been an RB1, okay? Here are the games, week 15, 16, and 17. As you can see, RB1 in 100% of them. 27 points week 15, 21 points week 16, and then 13, almost 14 points in week 17. Next on the list is Trevion Henderson. I view Henderson as this year's Bucky Irving. Obviously, they're different from a prospect level and things like that, but in terms of situation, he reminds me of Bucky Irving versus Rashad White, except it's Trevion Henderson versus Ramondre Stevenson. He's the only rookie last year with 1,000 rush yards and 200 receiving yards and 7 yards per carry. 7! Yo, 7 yards per carry. He has 0 fumbles lost on 667 career touches. All Ramondre does is fumble the football. This guy has literally never lost a fumble. A video does not exist of Trevion Henderson losing a fumble. You cannot show me that. That's insane. So I think it's simply a matter of time before he's the lead running back in New England. Now, before we get into the mock draft, there are some other targets I just want to talk about, some undervalued guys who I think, some of these veterans might be on the verge of the best season yet, okay? Javonte Williams is going to start the season as the bell cow, 15 opportunities per game. We're hearing there's attitude issues with Jaden Blue, which whatever, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, Javonte should be the lead RB, and I think he's slept on. He's still a good age. A veteran, but could do it. J.K. Dobbins is currently the Denver RB1. Every time he's given a lead opportunity, he's good in it. We saw that last year with the Chargers. Then DeAndre Swift, I hope he benefits from Ben Johnson. And similarly, with 3 rookies, okay, who I think could be on the verge of a, quote, breakout season, even though it's their rookie year. Kyle Monangai, which, again, this is a credit to Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson's backfield last year in Detroit averaged 35 opportunities, total opportunities per game. So if Monangai can just get over Roschon Johnson as the RB2 in Chicago, he doesn't even have to beat out DeAndre Swift to see value. He's a complete sleeper. Dylan Sampson, now with Quinshon Judkins, sidelined for 6 weeks. Even if Judkins was playing, I still liked Sampson, but I really like Sampson now. He's the best Cleveland running back. Do not be betting on Jerome Ford with like a 4th, 5th round pick. Please don't do that. And Trevor Etienne, yes, Trevor, not Travis, even though I still like Travis, but Trevor Etienne, guys, is 20 years old, similar to Samson. 2 rookies who are 20. History favors 20-year-old rookie running backs. Trevor, by the way, is on the Panthers. So we're talking a little Chuba Hubbard earlier, but he's a very good pass catcher. Gives me like James White vibes, okay? So maybe. You never know. Deep, deep sleeper. Okay. What I want to do first before we mock draft, and this will be quick, but I want to look at the Fast Draft ADP because Fast Draft, guys, is in touch with the pulse of community and these players. So let's just go ahead and, because the ADP is updated live after every single draft. So let's take a look at the running backs on our list, see where they're going in drafts. We'll discuss if their values are not, okay? So the first one is Zach Charbonnet. We'll type his name in. By the way, guys, on Fast Draft, 10-team drafts, okay? You draft a good team every time. It's so easy. There's a reversal, so the draft board is even. It's the best place to draft. Use code NOEXPERT when you're signing up. Link is in the bio. You get, $50 free dollars? Up to $50 free dollars in a deposit match, which is 3 free drafts. So it's a no-brainer. I prefer it to other best ball platforms because there's less people on it. It's total scoring, so you don't have to memorize the schedule. Shit like that. Okay, so Zach Charbonnet going 123rd overall, a 12th round pick on Fast Draft. I actually like that. I think that's a big, big value because you're getting a guy. First of all, you're getting basically the best handcuff in all of fantasy in the 12th round, so he's probably your RB5, RB6, all right? But you're getting a guy who, if he carves out a role, 50-50 split in Seattle, he's probably an RB2, and you're snagging him 123rd overall. We'll walk through a couple more of these guys. Cam Scatterbo, I'm sure he's going to be a little higher on the board here, probably top 100. Let me see. 103rd for Scatterbo, so again, 11th round pick. In the same tier as like Michael Pittman, Tyrone Tracy at 108, Emeka Egbuka. So I think he's appropriately placed. Scatterbo and a good pick there. Caleb Johnson, I know he's going to be going high in this draft over on Fast Draft. Let's take a look. Yeah, 61 overall. So 7th round pick, but right after James Conner, ahead of guys like DeAndre Swift, who we mentioned. Don't have to look him up. He's 66th overall. Pretty good value. Hampton is going high, but I'll just tell you right now, I don't think it's high enough. Let's take a look at Hampton, 41st overall. It's a 5th round pick. Some RBs going ahead of him. Breece Hall, Kyron Williams. I agree with Kyron. I don't agree with Breece. Bucky Irving. I think he should be in this 3rd round, guys. Hampton, I really do. I'm very high on him. Look up a couple more here. Tyjae Spears is just simply going to be a value. Let's take a look at Spears on Fast Draft. 127th overall for Spears. Similar RB range as Jaden Blue and Isaac Guerrero. Spears needs to be higher in absolute value on Fast Draft. And again, guys, this is the best place to play best ball. I do whole strategy write-ups for this in my Discord. Join below and use code NOEXPERT, guys, when you sign up for Fast Draft. $50 free deposit match. Let's hop into a mock draft of our own here. And these ADPs will be a little different. They're more resemblant of your home leagues, for example. But as always, we'll do a random order. I'll press start draft. It'll put us somewhere. And let's try to cash in on some of these late RBs. Now, what I'd like to do, honestly, is do a little bit of a 0 RB action, if I'm allowed. Because, honestly, I never do. And I'd like to just test, that's what mock drafting is all about, test how our team will look if we do not pick a running back in the first 3, 4, 5 rounds. Okay, so let's see. Amon-Ra St. Brown is on the board at the 109. He will come home. Maybe we get lucky with a Brock Bowers. We don't. He goes 112. And let me remove my face cam for you guys because I know that you can't see. Okay, it's been removed, so now you guys can see all the picks on the board. 109, we go Amon-Ra St. Brown. After us, it was Collins, Thomas, Bowers, Henry, A.J. Brown, Drake London. Now, Achan's on the board, Genty, CMC. It's taking a lot for me to not draft them, but in the spirit of trying things, we will go with maybe Josh Allen, probably a little early. Ladd McConkey's on the board. Really, the pick really is Achan, Genty, or McCaffrey, but for experiment's sake, Ladd McConkey, come on home. Even though your ADP is 22, it's about 7 picks early. All right, so through 2 rounds, we have St. Brown and McConkey. For real-life purposes, you could say St. Brown and London, St. Brown and AJB. Okay, if those 2 guys were there, I might have taken them. Probably not taking London, probably not taking McConkey, the 204 in any draft, but again, we are experimenting. So we're back up at 309. The 3rd round started with Wilson, McBride, Higgins, Taylor, Daniels. Interesting. James Cook, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, and we're back at the 309. Marvin Harrison on the board, Devontae Adams, Terry McLaurin. Not in love, guys. All right, not in love. Yeah, let's just keep being funny and take Jalen Hurts. Now, again, this is not going to be a great team, but I just want to see what it looks like if we go 0 RB and see where some of these running backs are going. So maybe Hampton is on the board. Okay, so Hampton is on the board here. We're in the 4th round. If we want to take him, now's the time to take him. So let's just go ahead and take him. All right, and that was some 0 RB. Wow, 4 rounds in, we already got one. But I want to see what my team looks like with Hampton as my 1 and just kind of take a look. So that pick probably should have been George Kittle. Again, just messing around here, seeing how we can find value at the position. Let me put my face cam back on for you guys. Okay, it's back on. So through 4 rounds, we have St. Brown, McConkey, Hurts, and Hampton. Not a great team, okay? Not a great team. Tight end are gone for this round. We have Laporta and Hawkinson. Probably would have taken one, but they are not there. So we're going to be looking at like Evan Ingram, maybe a Kelsey later, a Jake Ferguson, guys like that. In terms of wide receivers on the board, Olave, Worthy, Waddle, Pickens is there. You guys know I love my George Pickens. In terms of running back, not a lot of guys we talked about. We're coming up on Henderson, Swift, range, Caleb Johnson, but not yet. So let's go back to wide receiver here, and let's draft George Pickens as our wide receiver 3. I picked him over Olave, Worthy, Waddle. Honestly, same tier. Love me some Pickens. And we come back to us in the 6th round. And who are we looking at now? In the 6th round. RBs, we're avoiding this tier of Pacheco, Jones, Harvey, Tracy. We're avoiding that. Tight end, we have Kelsey on the board. Okay, I'll go Kelsey. Quite the interesting draft here, guys. So through, what are we? Through 6 rounds, we have Hurts, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Ladd McConkey, Kelsey, George Pickens. And now we're really going to get into that RB range. So the remainder of this draft, guys, is really just going to be RB and wide receiver, kind of, back and forth, if you will. So let's take a look who's available for RB at the 709. And there's our guy, Trevion Henderson, get on the team. So we have Hampton and Henderson, pretty awesome. And hopefully Caleb Johnson is available here in the 8th. He is. And just like that, I mean, understand that, it's, understand it's not the best team ever, but it serves the purpose of showing you the type of RB core you can build, guys, if you just wait on the position and find these undervalued guys. We have Hampton, Henderson, and Caleb Johnson. So most likely, Henderson is probably on the bench to start week 1 unless we hear something out of training camp. All right. But if I'm rolling into week 1 with Hampton and Johnson, assuming things remain how they are right now, I'm pretty happy with that. I also just realized the roster settings are for Superflex, so let me get rid of that. Okay. And resume draft. All right, we're back. So through 8 rounds, the team isn't great, but again, for the exercise of showing the RBs you can get, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. We have Hurts, Hampton, and Henderson, St. Brown, McConkey, Kelsey, Pickens, and Caleb Johnson as the first guy off the bench. Let's keep building this roster out. Keep looking for value late. At the 909, Tyjae Spears. And honestly, I'd be pretty surprised if the next pick is not Zach Charbonnet. In the 10th round, 1004, bring him home. Oh my gosh, he went 1 pick before us, and it was a reach. Crazy. Let's head over to the wide receiver position, and Josh Downs is the guy here as our wide receiver 4 on the team. Again, behind St. Brown, McConkey, and Pickens, Downs is a great wide receiver 4. He's going a little earlier on some of these best ball platforms like Fast Draft, but even in the 7th, 8th round, I do like Downs. And now we will just close out this draft. Egbuka get on the team in the 11th. And then for the RB, we do have J.K. Dobbins on the board still. Hopefully he makes it to us as a guy we mentioned. He does. Okay, so cool. There's just so much late running back value. And I'll say it again. I sound like a broken record, but kind of ignore like the team as a whole. It's not a good team. But I just wanted to see like if we really waited on running back and I reached on Hampton at the end of the 4th. He's really a 5th rounder, right? In this exact format and in your home league, probably if you're playing Fast Draft or whatever, 41st overall, and I picked him where he should have gone. Okay, but we have Hurts. Okay, I wish we had a better tight end since we went 0 RB. Kind of choked the Kittle pick there with Hampton. Maybe I should have waited. Okay, but we could have had Hurts and Kittle at QB and tight end. Then we would have had Henderson and Caleb Johnson at running back. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Ladd McConkey, 2 top 12 receivers. Again, with Kittle, with Hurts. So when you're doing a 0 RB, a 0 wide receiver build, maybe some of you sickos out there always want to get the elite QB, always want to get the elite tight ends. So this was a fun exercise. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode today. Again, breakout running backs, guys. They win leagues, these undervalued running backs. That's why hero running back, for example, a Bijan, a Gibbs, a Saquon, a Genti, and then wait at the position, scoop up this undervalued running backs, guys. Good luck this year. Keep watching the videos. I appreciate all the support, guys.